Well, good morning and welcome to the third week of school. This week I decided to try combining the two videos so that I could get the videos up for you more quickly and you wouldn't have to look at two videos, you can just look at one. So let me begin with a couple of, reminders or announcements. Um, I did answer your questions on the announcements page. Be careful to check that throughout the week. Sometimes I update information as I'm getting questions from you. A number of you had questions about the assignment and how to upload that, and I think I answered those. Remember that your writing assignments are always going to be due on Friday. You can have until, 11 o'clock if you need it, but they'll always be due on Friday, and they'll always be due in the assignment folders as a Word or Google Docs, but as a document. Okay, I don't want you to write directly in the text box that's in the assignments area. I want you to upload a separate document that it uses MLA format. If you have not used MLA format before to write essays, then feel free to Google it. I'll put up a link in the announcement for today if you need to look at that, what that looks like. But basically, 12-point Times New Roman font and default margins, double spaced. You have a heading on the upper left-hand corner with your name and the date and English 1101 and my name. And then you have a title that's centered. And other than that, that's pretty much the basics. These first writings are short. They are intended to be no more than a page or two. They are warm-ups for your first big assignment, which will be the food memoir, and you'll begin to work on that next week. So for these first two assignments, for last week, emphasizing food and memory, where you wrote about a particular recipe that was important to you and the memories that you have of eating that food, that particular recipe. You're focusing on conveying your memories and your feelings about them to the reader. Remember, I talked about the rhetorical situation. You want to think about your purpose, and you want to think about what the reader intends to understand or to take from this particular piece of writing that you are doing. And you're in a similar situation this week. You are reading two pieces about food and identity. One by David Sedaris, who writes about how food in its aesthetic, its looks and its taste and its preparation has never meant very much to him. The taste of it is less important to him than the quantity of it. He eats to fill up and to get as much food as he can. And so you'll read about that. And then you're going to read a little bit longer piece that's excerpted from a book called Julie and Julia, about a young woman who kept a blog and who worked her way through Julia Child's great French cookbook. And she decided that she would embark on this project to complete every recipe in the book in a year, and she kept a blog as she made her way through the cookbook. And so you have this sort of beginning, the first part of that, day one, recipe one. So these readings have to do with how food is important to people or not important to people, as it's part of their identity. And then you have a little short piece to write about a meal that is important to you, that a meal or some kind of food that's important to you. Again, you're writing a little bit about a memory, but you're writing about why this particular meal or this particular kind of food, how it's been, important. Maybe it's something you like to cook, and maybe it's something that's been important in some way in shaping your thoughts about food or your way of thinking about understanding food. What's its role in your life? Are you like David Sedaris and food is just something that you eat? It's fuel and you need to get as much of it as you can and keep going? Or are you somebody who reads recipe books and tries recipes and you're interested in in baking or cooking or food is in some way part of something you enjoy doing. Maybe you enjoy cooking with friends or family. Maybe you like to invite people over and have big cooking parties or whatever it might be. So another short piece that you're writing this week, about a page, can go over if you need it to. And again, as a writer, the focus here is on capturing for the reader an experience, a memory. So what's important to you, for you as a writer? It's really important that you think about what you want the reader to get. What impression do you want the reader to get? Do you want the reader to understand that this is really important to you? You want the reader to understand something about you, something about your identity. So the details are going to be really important, aren't they? Sensory details. Think about being as specific as you can, describing the food, the people involved, the place, the time, the experience. Think about what the reader needs to smell, what you want the reader to sort of taste, what you want the reader to hear and see, all of those sensory details. Cast yourself, back to this memory, or think about this particular food that you're writing about, and recapture, imagine, re-envision that experience, that dish maybe that holiday meal that you're trying to describe, and use as much concrete detail as you can for the reader so that the reader comes away with the impression, that sense of understanding, that sort of sense of experiencing what you experienced. The best way you can do that as a writer is to put yourself in the reader's place and think, what would I need to know? What would I need to read here that would make this real for me? And that's what you want to focus on as a reader. These little writings are, as I said, warm-ups for your food memoir later, which is longer and will be a little more complex than what you're doing in these short writings. Use them as a way to hone your skills, and for now, focus on the details. We'll talk more about thesis statements and arguments later, but right now, the devil is in the details, so focus on those.